Hi, welcome to this first UMDCYL live stream. It's also my first live stream ever, so there might be some technical difficulties. If there is, we'll figure something out. But thank you for joining us. My name is Peterson. I'm an assistant professor here in computer science at UMD. And I'm sort of the host/commissioner of the UMDCYL, that's the UMD Cybergames Youth League. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We'll give a little bit of a recap of of last year's UMDCYL, talk about what we're going to do this year, how it's different, how you can get involved. Before we do that though, interesting. I am getting a report. There's a little audio issue. Let me see if I can get that fixed. Okay, I actually am listening to the stream right now, and I think what I'm hearing anyway is what the microphone in this room normally sounds like. I think it's just probably my office. So I'm gonna go ahead unless it's not understandable. You can chat with me using the live chat feature on the YouTube page, so I'm going to try to keep an eye on that while I do this presentation. Okay, so let's move on. So I'm going to give a little bit of an outline. So I'm going to talk about the UMDCYL in general, a little bit of an introduction. Then I'll talk about what are the goals of the UMDCYL, why are we even doing this, what's the purpose of it. Then I'll compare last year's UMDCYL to this year's upcoming UMDCYL, what's different, what's the same. And then, since hopefully many of you watching this video weren't involved last year, because one of our goals this year is to increase participation, we'll kind of give you an overview of how things worked, what's unique about the UMDCYL as a programming competition, as an experience for high school students, and then we'll kind of dive down into the details more of how does it actually work, what does it mean for a teacher to coach this, to help students through this, what do I need to know as a coach, how will we communicate with you, what are the challenges like, all those kind of details we'll get into. And then I'll actually give you a demo of the technology we're working on for this spring. It's not perfect yet, and we're still working some kinks out, but it'll kind of show you the basic interface that teachers will use to help students. The interface students will use to write programs, test programs, see scores, things like that. We have a prototype, but it's a pretty good working prototype thanks to one of my students, John Ballou, who did a huge amount of work on this. Then we'll talk about, after the demo, part of the demo we'll actually talk about a support demo. So one of the values of doing this online, the way we are decentralized, is that you can use this and do this whenever it works best for your school and your team. And so we need sort of a decentralized support mechanism too, and we're using a cool new chat system that a lot of software developers and tech people are using called Slack. So we'll give a little demo of that as well. While you're listening, if you're interested, in the description of the live stream there's a link to the Slack channel for UMDCYL, and you can create an account there. It's free. There's no fee or anything like that. You can get logged into there because I'll do a little demo later. You can also ask questions through there. Then we'll talk about a timeline for how we expect UMDCYL to work this spring, followed by a little description of the invitational, and then some time for more general questions. once again, I'll try to keep my eye on the live chat window as well. So if you have any questions you want to ask me, please feel free to just to chat there, and I'll try to keep an eye on it. Okay. Sorry, I'm still getting used to my chat workflow here. All right, so introduction. What is the UMDCYL? Well, it's a programming contest for high school students. This is our second year. It's a totally free program. We're supported by an outreach grant from UMD for interesting outreach projects. It's run by myself, Dr. Peterson, and I have several grad students and undergrads who are helping me put it on, both in terms of helping writing the software, writing challenges. Hopefully the students will be helping with support as well. So we're handling all the fancy footwork, and we're targeting every high school in northeastern Minnesota and northwestern Wisconsin. So last year we sent invitations to about 100 schools. And if you know people who might be interested, who maybe haven't been in contact with us, please spread the word to them or give us their email addresses so we can talk to them. Because the whole point of doing this online, the way we are trying to structure it, is that it can be maximally available to anyone who might be interested in doing it. The season and everything is 100% online. The invitational at the end is optional, so if you think getting to Duluth for an invitational on a Saturday doesn't work for you, that's not that shouldn't preclude you from being involved. The season itself, again, is 100% online. What are the goals of the UMDCYL? Why even go through this? Well, my main goal is to give students a positive experience doing programming. I think programming is valuable for a lot of different reasons. Programming is going to be a skill that's only more important in the future, so giving students an ability to have some hands-on time writing programs, doing something, solving problems, having fun, I think that's really valuable. Writing programs forces you to think critically about how to solve problems. Everyone nowadays knows, like, oh yeah, you can write programs, but what does that really mean? How can I write a program and see something effective and real happening before my eyes? A lot of times when you write a program, you don't get to see the benefits right away, but with the UMDCYL, that's kind of the idea, that you can write a program and see on screen right away how your program works and whether it's working, and hopefully give you ideas for making it better. I feel like students should get a sense of satisfaction when they write programs and they see something work, see something unfold in front of them. This is also a team challenge, so it should help students to develop teamwork skills, help each other debug their programs, think about how to make their programs better, and so on. Let's talk a little bit about last year's UMDCYL. We used a virtual tank game that already existed, so it was kind of an arcade game where tanks could drive around and in an arena, kind of like asteroids or something, and see each other and shoot at each other. And we used that game because it was a pre-existing game. It was something that we couldn't have created on the fly. So last year there was this one base game, and we did weekly variations on the game. So different challenges, different restrictions, and things like that. We had 11 schools participate, about 40 students in total who were involved. We had around 25 or 30 students who came to the invitational on campus from I think 5 schools out of the 11 that were involved came to the invitational. And we did a bunch of videos to describe the challenges and to recap the results. A link to the video playlist is linked in the description for this stream, so you can look at those videos to get a sense of what the challenges were like and what things were like last year, if you're wondering what UMDCYL is all about. This year, we are changing some things. Okay, so instead of this kind of team versus team combat thing, we're doing more primarily single player games. So you can think of this as a difference between, a game like soccer or football where it's team versus team on the field, to something more like track and field where you're competing against other people, but you're sort of competing against yourself for the best time, the best score. Rather than last year where we did sort of variations on a theme of the same game, different challenges, this year we're going to have a different game for every match. So the games will vary hopefully quite widely. We're going to have 2 weeks for each match. So last year we had 1 week. We'd release the challenge, and then at the end of that week we had the competition. We'll talk about how the competitions work in a little bit. But we kind of felt like that wasn't quite enough time for schools who maybe had a hard time getting their students together, or when spring break rolled around, that would knock certain schools out because they weren't able to participate that week. So by making the challenges last over 2 weeks, we give schools more flexibility with how to manage their teams and also how they can participate even if they have vacations and other kinds of things happening. We're planning to do 4 to 6 matches, so at least 4 matches, but hopefully 6 matches. And I'll say this again later, but if you have feedback about what you think would work best for your school, we're all ears. So if 4 is better than 6, that'd be good to know. If 6 is great, that'd be great to know as well. Like last year, the language and the framework will stay the same. So one of the big things that John has done this year, my student John, is built this big framework and programming language so that we can actually drop in various different types of games, but students still have the same basic interface and the same programming language. So hopefully they'll be able to build up their skills as they work on writing these games. Like last year, we'll have an on-campus invitational where we'll have live matches and other fun stuff that we'll talk about in a little bit. Once again, if anyone has any questions, feel free to mention it in the live chat. I'm keeping an eye on that. There will also be time for questions at the end. Okay, so how does the UMDCYL work? If you participated last year, most of this will be a repeat. If UMDCYL is new to you, this will kind of give you an idea of how it works. So for every challenge, like a simple game, so imagine a game like Pac-Man, okay? Students will write programs to play the game. So they don't actually play the games themselves. What they do is they write a program that plays the game. So it would be like writing a program to drive Pac-Man around and eat the dots and the power pellets and ghosts and things like that. The program itself plays the character. So when you write the program and it works, you get to see Pac-Man doing his thing. When the program doesn't work, you see that Pac-Man isn't doing very well. Okay? So the whole idea is students are writing programs that play games. As I said, we'll have new challenges every 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks, the game, the challenge, the problem that students are trying to solve will change. All the programming is done in a simple Python-like language. If you don't know Python, that is no problem. In fact, if you don't know any programming language, that's not a problem. Python is very simple. I'll talk a little bit more about this later, but even if you're just interested in helping students do this, it's helpful for us to have a coach or an advisor on the ground at the school to handle, getting access to rooms and chaperoning students and things like that. But we can actually help students with the programming if that's something that's outside of your comfort zone. Everything is 100% on the web. Okay, so what that means is your school doesn't need to buy any software, doesn't need to invest in any hardware. All the students need to be able to do is access our website through a web browser and the chat support line, slack.com, through a browser. They can also use their own devices. You can even play this on a tablet or a smartphone. I often checked in on the challenges last year on my phone. and of course they can use home computers and things like that. So we're trying to lower any bar to entry that might exist. So everyone's working on these challenges. And last year we had 11 schools. This year we're really hoping to have many more. But we want each school to have its own private space so they can experiment with things and figure things out and go through the process of struggling and struggling to create something that works. So each school gets its own private arena that no other school can access. And every student gets a token, which is like a password that allows them to write a program. So in reality, each school will have its arena, and it will have many tokens that can be used to create student programs. So in some cases, coaches gave each student one token. In other cases, each coaches said students could have as many tokens as they want. How you want to manage your private kind of programming arena is completely up to you. Each program token is one program that gets saved and executed and scored, so you can use multiple tokens to try different types of programs. As your students in your team write these programs and run them, they'll be scored based on how well they solve the particular challenge, and you'll see an example of this in the demo. So if you have 20 students who wrote 20 programs, some of those programs will do better than others, and one program is going to have the highest score based on your school. So at the end of the challenge period, at the end of that 2 weeks, we're going to compete all the best programs from every school against each other, and the best programs will be the winners of that particular challenge. So again, last year we had 11 schools. In any given challenge, we probably had about 8 schools that participated. And at the end of the challenge week, I contacted every coach. They told me, run this program that's our best program, that'll be our candidate for the competition, and then we'll score it. This year we're doing the same thing with a slight twist, which is we will automatically choose your best solution and automatically execute it. So there won't be any last minute double checking with the coaches about which program to run. Okay. Again, if there are any questions, please feel free to chat in the live chat. So the basics of how this works, some of this might be a little redundant, and I apologize for that, but coaches need no programming experience. So if you know how to program, that's great, and it will help you help your students with problems. But we want to make this something that's accessible to all students in the region, regardless of their programming experience or the programming experience of their coaches or advisors. So please don't let fear of programming be something that pushes you or your students out from participating. Again, it's completely in the web browser, so it's very easy for students to use through many different devices, school, lab, home, whatever. Any system is okay. So if you have one student at your school that's interested, great, your school can have a team of one. If you have 50 students at your school interested, that's okay too. We can have a team of 50. If we had a team that big, we might want to consider splitting it and having 2 teams, but that's something that we can cross that bridge when we get there. Again, every student will get a token so they can write programs. So even if you had a team of 50, everyone will be able to. Because it's all online and it's all sort of decentralized, any meeting frequency is okay. I know some students in Duluth, our students and faculty or staff faculty are thinking about using a flex period in Duluth for meeting to work on programs. If something like that, that would be great. If you want to do an after-school club, that would be great too. If it's something that's homeroom or even just completely unstructured, you're a point person for your students, they come to you and contact us for support, that's totally fine. Similarly, we're even potentially open to the idea of a team without a coach. So if you have students that are interested in participating, but you don't have time to help, or there's no one else who wants to be the local point person, we're willing to kind of help shepherd students through that process. Of course, we need to make sure that that was okay with the school and that kind of thing, since there wouldn't actually be anyone on the ground. So that's something we'll have to talk about, but we're open to discussing it. The match time, the time at which your best program will be competing against everyone else, that will be scheduled in advance. So last year we did it Friday evenings at I think 8 p.m. or something like that. So there will be a time where we say, at this time we're going to run your best program against everyone else's programs and we'll rank them. And that will all just happen automatically this year rather than manually like last year. So again, if the challenge is for 2 weeks, then you'll have 2 weeks to work on your programs, improve them, test them, talk to your students, they can talk to us, and then at that time, on a Friday evening or whenever it is, we'll actually compete all the programs against each other. Okay, what kind of games are we going to be playing this year? So we're going to, again, like I said, try to have a breadth of games so that it isn't all one style of game, so that it doesn't appeal only to one type of student. They're all going to be, as you'll see in the demo, kind of 2D, kind of simplistic games, but within that framework, there's a lot of breadth we can have. So searching an area for something, evading capture from other actors in the game. We're very seriously considering doing a Pac-Man style game, a skiing, racing style game where the ground is moving and you need your robot to avoid obstacles so it doesn't crash. An asteroid style game where there are asteroids flying around and you have to avoid the asteroids or shoot asteroids. Maybe lunar lander simulator where you're actually trying to land a rocket. Simple strategy games, maybe some kind of a farming simulator. Really, the field is wide open. We've got about half of the games either programmed or designed. We have some students here. We're running a little competition within the CS department to have undergrads create their own games for the challenge. If you have an idea for a game that you think would work really well, please let us know, because we're absolutely all ears. For support, we're going to use something, of course we'll use an email list for announcements, and people can email us for support as well. I'm happy to give out my office phone for coaches. It's listed in the main screen of the first screen of the live stream. I can also put it here in the, well, I probably don't want to put it in the chat. But email me and I'm happy to give you my phone number. But the main way that we're hoping to do support is through something called Slack, which is a free chat tool that a lot of technology companies are using to organize teams and do things like that. And the benefit of Slack is that it serves as a chat channel that people can access 24/7, and we, the helpers and myself, will get the messages when we next log on to the computer. So you can post a message, and if you're online, we will be able to get it right away and help you. If we're not online, we'll get it later, and when we get it, then we can answer you and you'll get a notification. There's also a free Slack app for your smartphone, so students or coaches can use that to help as well. So I want to give you a little demo of how Slack works. So if you haven't yet and you're interested, you might want to sign up. If you go to this link, you'll be directed to put in your email and pick a name, and it's pretty quick. So the Slack window, looks like this. Okay, so it's basically a simple chat system. On the left, you've got people who are in the system. So these are some students and a faculty member. And then we have separate channels. So there's an announce channel that we can use to send out announcements. So for example, I could say, let's say sample announcement. Next challenge is Pac-Man competition in 2 weeks. Okay, and anyone who is signed in would see this message. There's also a general chat if people have general communications, but I expect that the help window will be the primary method for chatting. Alright, so let's look at the live demo. So if you are interested in checking out the live demo, you can go to this URL, umdcyl.d.umn.edu/2017. And when you first go there, you're going to see this Lars apple hunt. And this is a description of the default program and some things about the programming language. But I don't think you even need to read that right now because it's very simple. Oh, and we see Brandon has sent us a message in the general channel on Slack. He says, "Hello world." Okay, so back to the demo. If you click on the Bot tab, you'll see there's a window which will be blank to start with since you haven't done anything. And then below that, there's a very simple program. And what this program does is it rolls a random value from 0 to 3 and stores it in the variable A. And then if A is 0, moves east. If A is 1, it moves west. If A is 2, it moves north. And if A is 3, it moves south. Okay, so this is just a program that simply does a random walk. Okay, so when I want to see how well my program works, I click the play button and the server runs in the background. And then up in the upper window, and if your screen is large enough, you'll see these windows side by side. You see my robot is driving around randomly trying to collect apples. Okay, I can speed up the playback so that it doesn't take so long, and my robot gets 300 turns to try to collect apples. I can even speed it up much faster. And a random walk is just not a very good way to find anything, right? So let's see how we could make this program better. So in all of the challenges, students will have some way to access some information about the game. So if what we're trying to do is collect apples, we need to know how to find the closest apple, okay? And if you look in the comments here, every line that starts with a hash is a comment. So two variables you have access to are xdir and ydir to the nearest apple. So if xdir is east or west, you can go east or west towards the nearest apple. If xdir is north or south, you should move north or south to the nearest apple. So we can modify this code to not move randomly, but instead to move based on xdir and ydir. So here we'll say xdir equals east, then we move east. If xdir is west, then we move west. Now, if I hit play, it's going to check the server in the background. And now we can see the results here, and I'll speed it up again. Now you see, my robot found the correct X value for this apple, but it doesn't actually know how to move up and down yet, or north and south, right? So it's just going to move back and forth trying to get to this apple without actually doing it. So you can see that's because I never tried to move north and south. So if I add ydir is north, we're going to move north. If wider is south, we'll move south. We'll hit play again. And now my robot's going to go straight towards the apples. So you'd say to yourself, well, this doesn't seem like a very good challenge. But what happens on the next level of the map is that there start to become robot traps. So the robot, if it walks into the trap, its game is over. Okay. So I'm not sure if the robot will walk into a trap here or not, but if you look at the instructions here, this level 2 advanced, you can see we can check for traps by using the command pit to east, pit to west, pit to south, or pit to north. So I could write a conditional statement something like, if pit to east, then do something. Okay? So I'm going to stop the playback here. Now, if you log in, you'll be able to see the scores. Okay, so once again, everyone can have a token. So I'm going to just log in with token. And if you'd like to test this out after the live stream is done, email me and we'd be happy to give you a token. So I'm putting in a token here. And now I'm actually logged in, and if I submitted my tank, if I submitted my robot, then it would be saved on the system. Okay, so why don't I do that? I'll click submit, and what that's going to do is actually add my robot to all the programs of everyone else in my school that's running in the challenge. And it turns out that with the new program, my average score is 8. So this program, on average, gets 8 apples in 300 turns. So we can see the scores for the whole school by clicking on the school scoreboard. And this is Woodland School, which Woodland is the neighborhood that UMD is in. And it turns out that example bot, that must be my bot, gets 8 apples on average, but somebody's written awesome bot, which gets 18 apples on average. And these other bots, Emily's bot, Lunch Meat Bob, the best apple picker, they're not so great. Okay, so but you know, these other bots have cool names, and I don't have a name. So I wonder how I can go about getting a name for my bot. So let's see if there's anyone listening. So I go to the help channel. Hey, how do I change the name of my bot? And maybe someone answers, maybe not. I tried to set it up so that someone would be able to answer this question for me, but since I'm stuck here in front of the microphone, I'm not sure if there are people actually listening to my chat or not. But if they were listening, they'd be able to reply here and answer the question. And the way that you do that is by, if I go back to my bot, updating the name in the comment. So I'll call this Peter's demo bot. And click submit, which again saves my bot to the school arena. Oh, and this time I averaged 10. My bot didn't change, but you know, randomness is sometimes fickle. So now if we click on the school scoreboard, you see Peter's demo bot now actually has a name. Okay. Now, this was just my school arena for our fictional Woodland school. But if we wanted to see the competition rankings, now during the challenge, the competition rankings wouldn't be visible because we don't, schools want some privacy while they work on the demo. But after the end of the challenge, we'll be able to click on the competition rankings tab, and it'll list the score of all the schools ranked. So right now there's only one school, so of course Woodland with 18 is the winner. And as you can see, the best bot from Woodland got taken and used as the competition bot. So if we had more schools, say Leicester Park and Chester Park, we could have more schools listed down here. If you look at the videos from UMDCYL last year, you can see how we had ranked scoring based on the different schools' outcomes. Once again, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to add them to the chat. But if there aren't any other questions, I am going to go back to the presentation. Again, if you want to try your hand at programming bots for our fictional Woodland school, send me an email or pop in on the Slack channel and ask for a token. We'd be happy to give you tokens that you can play with. I don't think we're going to use the apple hunt as an actual competition challenge. I think we'll probably use it as a tutorial for students learning how the system works. So unless there are any questions, I will go back to the presentation. Alright, so what's our timeline? Again, we're hoping to have 4 to 6 2-week challenges starting in late January or early February and going through April. Okay, so if you have opinions about that, if it should be less on the 4 side, let us know. We just want to get as many students as possible. The invitation will be on a Saturday after the season is over, so we'll try to find a date that works best for people. The start date and again, the number of challenges is flexible, so if you have opinions, please let us know. The Invitational, what's the Invitational all about? It's Saturday event on campus. We have a couple challenge matches, so we'll go into a computer lab or multiple computer labs if we have enough people, and give students a brand new challenge they haven't seen before and give them an hour to work on the best result. We might have those be team matches. We might put all of the participants in the Invitational into one challenge. Maybe we'll come up with some kind of other sort of competition. Who knows? We try to make it fun, have kind of a bit of a party atmosphere. We'll have food and snacks. Last year we had pizza from Pizza Luce. We did free t-shirts that you can see on the final video from last year. There's sort of a recap with a slideshow from the Invitational, so you can see what the t-shirts look like. We're going to have prizes and awards for the winning students. Last year we had a brief admissions talk from UMD, and an important part of the Invitational is a feedback session with coaches. So one of our goals was to find out how we can do better reaching out to our local community with programs like this and other things. So we really want honest feedback from our coaches, what works, what doesn't work, if this is something that's helpful, if there are ways it could be made better, if we should just go in a completely other direction. We really want to know what you think, and having people here for the Invitational is a great way to get some face-to-face time. So to recap, UMDCYL is a free, fun, easy programming experience for students with a bit of a competitive edge. One thing that I meant to mention is if there are schools that want to get involved but they're not interested in participating in the multi-school competition, that's something we could totally do. So we could absolutely give you access to an arena, but just not have you compete against the other schools. If that's something that you think would work for you, we'd be totally happy to do that. We want it to be a great experience for students. Judging from last year, it really was a good time. Students had a lot of fun, a lot of good feedback. It's very easy to coach or advise, even if you have no computer programming experience. You can do this. And if you don't, we're willing to help do this as long as there's someone on the ground who can be the local point person. We're doing all new challenges in 2017, so we're not using the same game or the same framework. We're going to change the challenges every week, so if you don't like one challenge, next time it's going to be something completely different. And we're going to have fun invitational on campus after that. And last year really was a blast. Students had a good time from Mount Iron and Lakes Regional Academy, Harvest here in Duluth. We had Grantsburg folks, met other schools that were involved. It was really a good time, and so I'm looking forward to it again. So if you have any questions at all from this live stream, please email me. I prefer email, or you can call me if you want. Or if it's a general thing all the way through the year, because there's no cost to doing so. So again, if you have any questions at all, now would be a great time to live chat if you have questions about how things work. Otherwise, think about your questions and email them and send them to me. And again, if you know other people that you think this might be up their alley, please share, because there's no cap to how many people can participate, and we really want this to be something that helps our broader community. So I guess I'll just leave things open here for a few minutes to see if anyone has any chat questions, and after maybe 5 or 10 minutes, I'll shut down the stream. But thank you very much for tuning in, listening. I really think it's going to be a fun time. I'm excited about it. So thanks again. Maybe I'll work on my program while I wait. So my robot fell into a pit. I'm going to zoom out a little. So if I step backwards, you see what happened is my robot sees that the Xter says the apple is to the west, and I'm in line with it vertically, and so I march right into the pit. So I need to somehow avoid pits, and you can see that I can use pit to east, pit to west, pit to south, or pit to north to avoid them. So I can add something like if pit to west move equals south. Okay, now I need to add in protections for the others. So I'll say if pit to east, move, how about north? So I'll try to avoid the pit. And you can see I'm copying and pasting my code because why retype it? If pit to north, if there's a pit to the north, then I'm going to try to move to the east. And if there's a pit to the south, whoops. Oh, interesting. Got a question here that Slack is requiring a UMD email address to join. I think I can change that setting. I'm actually new to Slack, so let me see if I can change that. Yeah, so I'm getting several sign-ups in to talk about that. How about how about I actually use this for help? My student John might be able to answer the question for me. Oops, here we go. Interesting. It looks like I might need to add domains. Or you can go to this link here. So I'll add that to the chat. I'll have to see about how to do that. Otherwise, we'll send invites out. Other questions? I'll have to look, obviously. Anyone has any other questions? Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. So that still requires, even though you go to that link, it still requires a UMD address. I should be able to add some other domains. We'll have to figure out a way to do that. I'm happy to add domains.